India is really the top pick now because India is going from strength to strength. As you know, Mr. Modi, the leader in India, has been pushing technology in a big way. He's introduced technology to every facet of society, and that is going to drive higher and higher growth in India. In fact, India now is growing at about 7%, which is one of the highest growth rates in the world. But don't forget China. China is still there, it's still huge, and China is now moving into higher and higher levels of technology. As you know, President Xi Jinping has stated that they want to have the country move into the best technology and the highest level of technology. So I recently was in China driving some of the automobiles, the electric automobiles, and I was very impressed. They really are doing a very good job.
That's true. Also, what sectors do you think provide the most promise now in emerging markets? And where would you invest? Where would you put your money if you're going to look at India or Taiwan or any other emerging market?
I'm glad you mentioned Taiwan, because Taiwan is one of our top picks, because Taiwan is developing software technology for chips, for integrated circuits. And that's a very, very important part of the entire spectrum of semiconductors. But what I do now is look at companies in terms of their utilization of technology. In other words, it really doesn't necessarily have to be in semiconductors or in software or in other technological areas, but it has to be in companies that utilize these technologies to improve their profitability and their growth. So it could be in a consumer area, it could be in industry, it could be in any sector, as long as they're using technology to improve their profitability and their growth.
Looking at equity markets in those countries, would it be best to invest in specific companies or to go into the market through ETFs?
Always specific companies. Don't buy the index, because you can get burned very badly. You know what happened with China. People were not paying attention in China, and the index, you know, most people were buying the index, China index, and the China index came down dramatically. So you're always better off to look at individual companies. And with individual companies, you can see trouble ahead. So if you had been investing in China, when trouble started, you would have been out of that market, because you would have seen that the company was getting into trouble.
Do you actually expect a correction in US markets right now, particularly in the tech stocks that have soared quite a lot, particularly NVIDIA?
I believe that the market is not going to do very well going forward. I think the US market is in for a bigger correction. And one of the things you have to watch very carefully is the success of companies, particularly tech companies, that are very popular but have no earnings. This is one of the dangers of tech, by the way, is that a lot of people buy into these companies that have no earnings but a big promise of the future growth. But most of this growth is not there. It's not possible. So you have to be very careful. And a sense of too much money going after poorly designed companies is a sign that the market is a little bit toppy.
How many rate cuts do you expect this year? The markets are pricing in a 40 basis point cut by year end. What do you think?
I would say probably you'll see by the end of this year, maybe 2% cut in rates.
2%?
Yeah, by the end of the year, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot more than what markets are expecting.
I know.
Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about gold. We've seen gold breach the $2,400 per ounce mark, and then we saw it go back down. So do you expect a further rally in gold prices this year?
I think gold will continue to be strong. And the reason for that is that more and more people have lost faith in central banks. Even with the US dollar getting so strong, people really have lost faith in the Fed and other central banks around the world, because they've been printing too much money. So people are hedging their bets with gold and with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrencies. So there's a whole new generation of people who are very skeptical about central banks.
Are you a fan of Bitcoin?
No, not necessarily. I like to follow it, but I prefer gold.